I showed you the Heisman odds a week or two ago, and they had Garrett Nussmeier as the second favorite behind Manning. So Brian Kelly's very excited to have Garrett back at school.
He is no athlete, in my opinion. You can quote me on that. Like, he is a clumsy white dude, and he sucked. I'm being nice now. Now all of a sudden you're talking about him being great? Oh, slow down there, Coach.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Devin Booker, do you know, in those 2 years, actually makes more in his salary than the entire Miami Marlins payroll this year, which I think is at like $62 million. That's a 72.5. I'm just doing the math really quickly. So, one guy's worth more than 25, but we know how bad the Miami Marlins is. But hey, I just talk hoops.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
No superstar wants to go to Portland there, so you go, oh, well, Dame actually wants to be back here, and this is going to hurt us. It sort of brings back those vibes where Kobe Bryant was in L.A. Great basketball player, horrendous basketball team, but maybe he could sell a couple extra seats and be a star in the building. That's Dame. And also from a perspective of what Dame wants, Dame just doesn't care about championships, and that's okay. Like, he makes a lot of money. He can do that and continue to lose in Portland. Can have it both ways, I guess.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Really would love to know what Jawan Jennings is after. If I were San Francisco, I'd hate to lose him. Not that I think he's ever going to be their best receiver on this football team, but you have a lot of question marks, right? We don't know how good Ricky Pearsall is yet.
We are asking, like, if Ayuk comes back and is healthy, if McCaffrey can be healthy, all these things. So why not just take the thing that you know works and just keep it?
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
President Trump threatens funding for the Commanders Stadium, plus WNBA All-Star Week wraps with players making some big statements to be paid more. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Front Office Sports Today, presented by Atlassian. From FOS Studios in New York City, I'm Baker Machado.
And I'm Renee Washington. Happy Monday, and thank you guys so much for joining us each and every weekday as we're talking the biggest stories in the business and culture of sports. We also are looking into Scottie Scheffler's Tiger-esque run on the PGA Tour, but first, let's tee it off with the shoot-around.
Yes, indeed. And while all eyes were on the WNBA All-Star Game this weekend, the Women's 3-on-3 League Unrivaled signed 14 NCAA basketball players to NIL deals, including UCLA's Lauren and Sienna Betts, Notre Dame's Hannah Hidalgo, LSU's Flau'jae Johnson, South Carolina's Tania Lawson, TCU's Olivia Miles, and USC's Juju Watkins. And the deals will run through the end of the 2025-26 women's basketball season, but does not guarantee a spot in Unrivaled when they turn pro. Also, the deals do not include equity either, but the players still seem excited as our Daryl Barnes caught up with Hannah Hidalgo to get her thoughts on these unique NIL deals.
You said that all 14 of y'all that were invited said yes. Does it feel like this is kind of the most desirable NIL deal in women's basketball?
I mean, absolutely. We see all the W players that are in it, that are thriving in it, that have thrived in it, and, it's on the come up.
It is such a great opportunity. I know that Lou Cooper, the Unrivaled president of basketball operations, said they originally actually only wanted 10 players. They put out offers of 14. All 14 said yes, including Hannah. And they also still plan to add 6 additional players. So they said they couldn't turn them down once they said yes. They included them. They're looking to add more to the roster sides potentially in terms of injury players. Unrivaled is doing a lot. They're adding 2 new teams in 2027. They're exploring other locations to play. And the beauty is they're not in competition, as their co-founder Alex Basil said, with the WNBA. But if the WNBA does not get things right with the CBA, you look at All-Star Week for Unrivaled versus the WNBA, the 3-on-3 league is getting a lot of things right by the players, for the players, and they're not a concern. But if that CBA does not happen, they and many other issues will be a big concern for the W.
Absolutely. And by the way, these are the best players in the country. So it makes so much sense to have them in coordination with the WNBA All-Stars as well. So this makes Unrivaled such a great league. Meanwhile, let's move to the latest in the NFLPA saga. As just days after Lloyd Howell resigned as leader of the NFL Players Union, J.C. Tretter, the former union president and Howell's number 2, also leaving. He told CBS News, quote, "I don't have anything left to give the organization." Now, Howell resigned last week after a stream of negative reports, including an NFL collusion lawsuit. The NFLPA will meet in the coming days to decide who will lead the group on an interim basis, but one name that keeps popping up the most seems to be current chief player executive Don Davis might potentially be one of those names.
And the NFLPA has to take their time to get this one right. I know Will Compton, friend of the show from Bustin' with the Boys, former NFL player himself, called them out saying, we've got to be the dumbest union in all of sports, just mentioning how they were considering hiring Treader, who's the guy that hired Lloyd in that 16-month process and then proceeded to sweep things under the rug. So I agree with Will Compton. They need to get this right so you're not just hiring someone that was involved in any sort of conflict of interest or anything. But it is interesting, as Treader mentioned, the last few days being so much for him and his family, needing to step away and feeling like there was nothing left for him to give with the NFLPA. And it's just been a little bit messy right now, Baker, with what's going on. He's been in that role since October of 2024 and has had such a big hand in so much. But as we're seeing, he's already stepping away. Another quick resignation.
And a lot of the players that I've been reading want a former player to actually be the one that runs this union. We should note Lloyd Howell had no playing experience, just had business
Other
experience.
leagues do that. They have players that are involved in a very big way.
Well, a New York pawn shop owner pled guilty to buying and selling $300,000 worth of stolen items from Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow's home while he was on the road playing the Cowboys. The man faces a maximum of 5 years in prison, $2.5 million in restitution, and possibly the risk of deportation. Now, 3 other men were indicted by a federal grand jury back in February for a series of burglaries, including the one of Burrow's home. This has led Burrow to say in the new Netflix documentary Quarterback, he couldn't buy the Batmobile recently because he was getting robbed.
Yeah, I mean, it's designer luggage, watches, glasses, jewelry, so much that was taken in that $300,000 worth that was stolen from him. And it's crazy because we've been seeing so many NFL players specifically that have been burglarized lately while they're playing, while they're on the road. He's one of many. I mean, it's been someone like Patrick Mahomes and others that we've seen as well that have come forward and saying, wait, I've been having these issues. So bigger problem for the NFL, bigger problem for these athletes, but it's crazy because some of these guys that were involved in the burglary were posting pictures. It always comes around. Somebody talks, the word gets out, and next thing you know, you're caught, especially in New York City with a pawn shop.
Yeah, exactly. No joke. Well, President Trump calling on the Washington Commanders and the Cleveland Guardians to go back to their former controversial team names, even insinuating he would block a $1 billion proposed D.C. funding deal for the Commanders Stadium. So let's take a look at this in our main event. All right, let's bring in FOS reporter Eric Fisher. Eric, why is the president doing this?
So he's shown a historical preference for teams to use these prior, more racially debated names that have been deemed insensitive. You see what's happening with the military bases. He's gone down a very similar path there. And let's not forget that he has a series of other political and personal issues that are commanding a lot of attention, no pun intended, that he's trying to distract attention from.
For the Commanders, what makes it odd is it seemed like he had a decent relationship with the Commanders, especially around the draft announcement for the NFL draft in the future being in DC, the stadium announcement. Has something possibly changed between him and Josh Harris or even with the Commanders in general that has made him now switch and kind of be pushing them to make this name change?
No, I think this, again, really has more to do with Trump himself and his own sort of personal situations here. It's also important to note a couple of things that with regard to the Commanders Stadium deal, this is largely a local issue. Congress does have some oversight over the D.C. budget, but the way the home rule provisions work, they have a lot of self-rule. So the office of the White House, the office of the presidency has fairly limited power on what is now a local issue. And with regard to the Guardians, it's important to note, yes, there's some beefing with the Dolan family, and this brother of the current team owner ran as a conventional Republican, did not back Trump a couple of years ago. And that's sort of the basis there. But it's all going to be sort of moot there because David Blitzer in 3 years is going to be coming in a prepackaged deal to be the new majority owner of the team. So the Dolans aren't even going to be in control of the Guardians soon enough.
Okay, that's really interesting to note because I was going to ask Eric, have the teams even responded to this? And I guess the larger question is, could they conceivably change the names back?
No, it's also important to remember that these are very lengthy, cumbersome, expensive processes. And in the case of both the Guardians and the Commanders, only did so after years of pressure, a lot of lobbying, a lot of pressure, cooperation from the leagues, a lot of people involved, very expensive, very cumbersome. And to just undo it, not going to happen. The Guardians have already said they're not going to do so. And I think right now the Commanders, they haven't said anything to anybody. I've reached out to them. Others have reached out to them. They haven't said anything to anybody. And I think they're just holding their powder right now, trying to get this stadium deal over the finish line. The DC Council has 2 days of hearings next week to try to advance this. I think there's going to be, and there's also a DC Council recess coming up in August. I think they're going to adjust that timing so they can come back and vote and try to get this thing over the finish line.
Yeah, for both sides, obviously with the change of their name, it also was a change of an era, of culture, of winning ways, of so many other aspects in terms of baseball and football, but also outside of their respective sports. As you mentioned, the stadium deal still in the works, still making some progress. Where do you anticipate these conversations go around reverting back to their previous contentious names? Do you think we'll continue to see this grow and escalate?
Yeah, I certainly out of the White House, but he's sort of the only person who's really sort of championing this. There's really no other groundswell to really do this, not from the team, not from the league, not from ordinary people. And in fact, I reached out to the DC Council chair this morning, who's principally in the driver's seat in terms of moving the stadium deal along, and gave me a statement that he's heard from literally nobody who wants a name change, that everybody's happy with the Commanders now. The Commanders are now a winning team. They've kind of turned the page from the Dan Snyder era, and everybody's kind of good with the way things are, except for Donald Trump.
Our thanks, of course, to FOS reporter Eric Fisher. Thank you. Well, FOS Today is brought to you by Atlassian. Atlassian Williams Racing brings two teamwork powerhouses together around a single goal: unleash the full potential of a legendary F1 race team. From the pit lane to the podium, Atlassian software transforms teamwork. It makes possible together what would be impossible alone. More FOS Today right after this.
Online casino expansion in the U.S. is extremely slow, a lot slower than I think we all would have thought, 5 years ago as sports betting took off. But you're going to start to see, I think, next year, a few more states kind of trickle into this. On top of Maine, you had Illinois kind of talk about it. Governor J.B. Pritzker pitched it as an idea to help cut down the budget deficit. Of course, we've got a weird tax fallout there.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Obviously, he didn't do great in the last two majors, and we're going home here. We're going to Northern Ireland, Royal Portage. This is Rory's the reason why we're going here. Got off to a rough start, throwing his tee shot out of bounds back in 2019. I think he'll be ready. Not yet ready to call him the winner. I still have a couple of days before I do that, but it is a home game for him. And as you saw, based on this weekend, he is playing well.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
His run in Salt Lake is over, but obviously the intimidation of a guy that's been around that long in Gundy and in this guy, if you look at their cases, they're very similar. It's been going on forever, right? And it's time for a change, I think, in Stillwater and in Salt Lake. I got to be honest with you. And believe me, if they lose again, they're going to get rid of him.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
No superstar wants to go to Portland there, so you go, oh, well, Payne actually wants to be back here, and this is going to hurt us. It sort of brings back those vibes where Kobe Bryant was in L.A. Great basketball player, horrendous basketball team, but maybe he could sell a couple extra seats and be a star in the building. That's Dame. And also from a perspective of what Dame wants, Dame just doesn't care about championships, and that's okay. Like, he makes a lot of money. He can do that and continue to lose in Portland. Get out of both ways, I guess.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports today with Renee Washington and Baker Machado. Well, it was a big weekend in Indianapolis for the WNBA All-Star Game. This is coming as the players are having intense negotiations over a new CBA deal. So to recap everything that happened over the weekend, let's bring in FOS reporter Colin Salau, who just returned from Indianapolis. Colin, good to see you as always. So how would you sort of assess how the All-Star Game went this weekend?
Yeah, I think amid everything, I would say that it really truly felt like a tentpole event for a major sports league, right? Like the WNBA made it seem like they belonged with any other sports league that that you've heard of. And a lot of that is because of the fans and the events that were all around. It was planned very well. I was at the 2022 WNBA All-Star Weekend in Chicago. You couldn't even go. The public wasn't allowed to attend the three-point contest and skills challenge. 15,000 fans went to that in Indianapolis this weekend. And the WNBA Live, which is their, festival before the games where fans can attend, it was packed every single time. There were lines for every player that came to speak. And people of all shapes and sizes, kids, little boys, little girls, men, women wearing the jerseys of not just Caitlin Clark. Obviously, there was a lot of Caitlin Clark, but you see, a man in an Angel Reese jersey beside a man in a Caitlin Clark jersey. It's incredible in that way. And I spoke to one exec who told me they had 6 brand partners back in 2022, the first time they had WNBA Live. They had 25 this year. So that's incredible growth for them. And you felt it because not just did the partners grow, but even the way that they, activated at the events. Playa Society is one of the main brands that was there back in 2022. They've partnered with the league a ton. They were like a small booth back in 2022. Now they had their whole fixture, their whole setup, artwork, and you see fans everywhere walking around with Playa Society. So I think, amid all the CBA talks, we're going to, touch into that. But the WNBA has definitely arrived, I think, after this All-Star game.
And one of the things, guys, that I love most about WNBA All-Star Week is I feel like they have the perfect blend of entertainment, connecting with the fans, getting to see your favorite players. And even though the game was a blowout, it still was very fun to watch. And I think NBA All-Star, especially others in general, can take a page out of what the WNBA has done because you see the players, Colin, taking a stand. I'm going to start with Sabrina Ionescu's comments about feeling like All-Stars don't really have a break. And they'd love to have more time off. Nobody gets a full week off, but they want more time to be healthy, to be able to enjoy and compete in the game, but also be able to connect with the fans. What are your thoughts on Sabrina Ionescu's comments regarding giving as that's something that's going to come up in the CBA, of course, giving All-Stars more time off so that they can focus on that week to be present, healthy, and enjoy it?
Yeah, I think it's valid, right? There's been a lot of criticism and pushback towards Sabrina Ionescu on social media with people saying, hey, the NBA players, the break is the same. But if you actually dive into that, a lot of the teams that play in the NBA on the last day, they don't play on the first day back. Most teams have a week or so off. And that's actually something that the NBA worked on. They added a couple of days for teams because of that same complaint that they felt, I believe, maybe about 5, 6, 7 years ago. So the NBA added that. The WNBA, obviously, less teams, less to play around. But there are 10 teams playing on Tuesday, tomorrow. 10 teams played on the last day, Wednesday, and 8 of them are the same teams. So, you could cut 1 or 2 games. Maybe there's a TV thing there, and that's why they have to play those games. But maybe that'll be easier, again, with the new CBA and with more teams being added. But I still believe that that conversation is valid on their part, especially when you look at like the Atlanta Dream. They played on Wednesday, they play again tomorrow, and they play a road back-to-back to start coming off the break. They had, Alicia Gray participating in every event this All-Star break. So to your point, I think they're tired. And, as we've seen on social media, they also want to have their fun. They also want to have their drinks on the weekend. So I'm sure they're exhausted.
Well, this also, of course, as we've been talking, the CBA deal as well, given the fact that players had their largest in-person meeting during the All-Star break, even though our Annie Kospel says that those meetings didn't seem like they went really well. And then you have the players during the game wearing shirts saying, pay us what you owe us. If anything, I feel like this heightens leverage that they have heading into these intense negotiations.
Yeah, it's interesting because Commissioner Kathy Engelbert characterized it as a constructive meeting, whereas Brianna Stewart, I was talking right in front of her, standing right in front of her when she called it a wasted opportunity, right? And she said there was a lot of fluff in the meeting. So there's obviously a lot of back and forth. We're seeing some things happening in the media, but to your point, yeah, there is additional leverage. After the game, the fans chanted, "Pay the players." And you could see the players like getting emotional about that because the fans are starting to understand. Now, I think the crux of it is really revenue share, right? Annie actually asked in the press conference, what the league is talking about when it comes to revenue sharing. And Commissioner Kathy Engelbert said, there is a level of revenue sharing in this current CBA. There is something that we're pitching. And Nneka Ogwumike after the game kind of said that, it's not what they're offering is basically something of like a fixed growth. It's something that doesn't go along with the growth of the league. It's like fixed instead of, kind of what the NBA does, where if the league makes an X amount, they will grow the same amount as the league makes. So that's really where the issue is. The WNBA players are asking and recognizing, even someone like Aaliyah Boston, and Courtney Williams, when I spoke to her, they're starting to realize that like, hey, this is not just for now, this is for 7 years from now. Right? Like, it's not just for us, it's for the kids who are still in high school when they come into the league. So that's what they're trying to fight for. And they do seem to have leverage, but I do think that there is, people, not just the commissioner, but there's people in the board of governors who are going to fight for theirs because they are recognizing that, yes, they did lose money a lot here over the last few years. And they want to be able to, put their leverage in that standpoint as well.
Yeah, absolutely. A very fun week when you look at just what the WNBA was able to do. But I do wonder if this was a success because they had a chance, even without Caitlin Clark, with all the records that we saw made, they had great opportunity to showcase what makes the W so great and why they should be paid more.
Yeah, very good points across the board. Thank you so much, Colin Salau, for us. Enjoy your day off, Colin. Thank you so much for all your reporting. And coming up next, everyone, is the hottest player on the planet, Scottie Scheffler. That's next on Front Office Sports Today.
There's a possibility that we could be looking at DeBoer wondering if he's the long-term answer at coach for the Tide?
I'm starting to feel like Alabama, I can't believe I'm saying this, Craig, is a sleeper. Fourth easiest schedule in the SEC this year. Ryan Williams is back. I think the friendly, these early season games against Florida State and Wisconsin, that is friendly for Alabama.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Sick and tired of seeing tennis players like fall to the ground like in disbelief, like they captured the Rubik's Cube here. It's like, take it easy. You won 6-love, 6-2, 6-3. I mean, it's not like it's dramatic. I did that now, did today, but I'm saying, I see that guys do that all the time, and women do that. It's like, relax. You won in straight sets. It was a foregone conclusion an hour ago. Stop pretending like it was a dramatic victory.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
You are going to bank on Luka Doncic, who is a phenomenal talent, but his defense has been questioned, his work ethic, his time has been questioned, and his conditioning has been questioned. Name me one time in his 23-year career that you've questioned one of those three things about LeBron James.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Everybody also is going to know the name Yuri Perez next year because Yuri Perez, obviously in fantasy circles, is a guy that we've been excited about for a while. Burst onto the scene a couple years ago, was electric, was fantastic. Then Tommy John, and we've been waiting for him ever since. And, all of a sudden the last couple stars starting to look like the Yuri Perez that I know I was very excited about drafting going into this season. And he has been brilliant.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back, friends, to Front Office Sports Today. A big weekend for Scottie Scheffler, who won his 4th major championship victory at the Open in Northern Ireland on Sunday. His 2nd major following the victory that he had at the PGA Championship back in May. Now, he took him about $3.1 million in that check, and he's had a dominant performance over the last little while. A lot of people, Renee, comparing him to Tiger Woods lately. So let's bring in FOS reporter David Rumsey for more. So why has Scottie Scheffler been so dominant lately?
Yeah, Baker, it's been awesome to watch as a golf fan. 2 major championships this year. It's his 4th of his career and the 3rd leg of his career Grand Slam. So now he just needs to win the U.S. Open to join Rory McIlroy as the most recent player to complete the career Grand Slam.
There's been a lot of comparisons, David, of Scottie Scheffler to Tiger Woods. But the thing that I'm curious about is when you look at Tiger Woods in his prime, one of the most dominant athletes across all sports of his era, is Scottie Scheffler possibly one of the most dominant athletes right now?
Yeah, when you start to look into the data, really, like the golf nerds are saying, this is as close as a player that we've seen to Tiger Woods since Tiger Woods. I mean, we've had others that have come and gone that have won some big tournaments, but when you really look at how Scottie is comparing to other golfers, he's really blowing them out of the water. Even when he doesn't win a tournament, his stats show that he is one of the best ball strikers, and he's really putting it in the results there.
All right, so he's 4th now all time in career earnings behind just Tiger, Phil Mickelson, and Rory McIlroy. But there's a real case to be made that he could potentially catch Phil Mickelson here really soon. Does he do that by the end of the year? And then does he really have a challenge against Tiger to take the top spot?
Yeah, Baker, I think he does. And obviously he's dominant, but as we know, there's just been so much money pouring into professional golf in recent years. So when he's winning these major championships, signature events, it's $3 million, $4 million winner checks. And we expect him to get probably another win this year, several more next year. So Tiger is in that $120 million career earnings range. I think Scottie and even Rory McIlroy will probably surpass that next year or within the next few years at the very least. And I got one more for you. Scheffler is actually, he's going to close in on $100 million in career earnings pretty soon, but he's also going to make $100 million just in the past 2 years when you factor in bonus money like the $25 million FedEx Cup last year, some more FedEx Cup bonus money coming this year. So pretty lucrative 2 years, $100 million for a golfer.
Yeah, not bad.
Absolutely. And when you look at sports, the evolution of them, a lot of people complain about career points for basketball, for example, because of now the 3-point line and maybe even one day a 4-point line. In golf, it's career earnings, as you mentioned. The purses continue to get higher. Does that put an asterisk or anything like that in terms of how you compare golfers? Because the price point is so much higher now and continues to increase.
Yeah, I think if you really want a true comparison, you should start looking at actual tournament wins, major championship victories, if you want to look into the data about how they're scoring compared to their competitors in each of the eras. But yeah, it is really fun to look at, hey, look how much money they've made. And we do this in tennis too. And it just shows you how great Tiger and even Phil were because they made all their money in that era where there wasn't as much cash coming into golf, but they're still up there at the top of the list. And it's taken Scottie and Rory still a while, even with these inflated purses, to try to catch them.
All right, David Rumsey for us. Thank you so much, David, for breaking that down. And let's see what's bubbling over at the FOS water cooler. Well, Renee, the Pittsburgh Pirates had their largest home crowd of the season on Saturday. That is 38,000 came for Mac Miller bobblehead night. That to celebrate the Pittsburgh rapper who died back in 2018 at the age of 26. And the Pirates also sold out a limited edition Miller collab t-shirt that's now selling for $175 over on eBay. And those bobbleheads, they're now selling for $200 right now. The Miller bobblehead night beat the previous attendance of the season on opening day against the Yankees and even beat out the Paul Skeens bobblehead night as well.
Yeah, when you look at the Pittsburgh natives' impact on the city, it's evident that they carry a lot of still love for Mac Miller, even though he passed away back, as you mentioned, September 7th, my birthday, sadly enough, 2018. But it is wild because there was also an issue since the first 20,000 fans were supposed to get bobbleheads, and allegedly they kind of ran out. Yeah. People were pissed off about that. But then to make matters worse, I know you mentioned the number, there's some prices as high as like $2,000 on eBay that these bobbleheads are selling for. So clearly it's not just Paul Skeens that can draw some big numbers in Pittsburgh. Mac Miller can do so as well.
It's a cool looking bobblehead. Meanwhile, some news just coming in just a few moments ago. Sean Shararnia is reporting that Chris Paul going to play a 21st NBA season, and this one going to be with the LA Clippers. There was reports that maybe he wanted to sign with a team close to home, and he's picking a team with a lot of other stars on it.
And most likely his last season for Chris Paul. I mean, as he returns back to the Clippers, much like we talked about with Damian Lillard's return back to Portland, this one-year deal solidifies that. It's also a 35 and older crew, apparently, with Bradley Beal, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, even Brooke Lopez. So it's an older team, and if this was about 10 years ago, they'd probably be a shoo-in for an NBA championship team.
This is like the 2019 All-Star lineup that we're seeing in the Clippers. All right, guys, coming up on FOS tomorrow, we're going to get you ready for MLN's All-Star Week in Austin. That's going to be fun. We'll, of course, be there. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.